You know, we've all heard the story of Snow White, right? A beautiful princess, a super jealous queen, 7 little dwarfs, and of course, a poison apple. But what if that's just the bedtime story version? What if the fairy tale we all grew up with is actually an ancient, incredibly detailed guide to transforming yourself from the inside out? Let's go ahead and unfold the map that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Well, what if the answer is a resounding yes? The sources we're digging into today make a really powerful argument that Snow White isn't just for kids. Nope, it's an allegorical blueprint, a hidden map to a higher state of consciousness, and it's all written in a secret language of symbols, numbers, and archetypes.
So, to decode this thing, here's our plan. We're going to look at the story you think you know. Then, we'll break down the central battle, the ego versus the soul. We'll chart the journey into our own inner world, look at the ego's biggest attacks, unpack the mechanics of a spiritual awakening, and finally, get to the ultimate goal, what it means to achieve true inner sovereignty.
Okay, so the first thing we really need to wrap our heads around is that storytellers from way back when didn't just tell stories for fun. They encoded deep, profound wisdom using allegory. These sacred stories, like Snow White, they were built with layers. They were designed so that you could understand them on multiple levels. And honestly, the literal surface level meaning, that was usually the least important part.
And this is where it gets really interesting. What looks like a simple tale about a princess and her wicked stepmother suddenly becomes this incredibly sophisticated map of human consciousness. That poison apple? It is so much more than just a plot device. It's a critical symbol for a specific stage in the process of spiritual alchemy, the transformation of the self.
Right at the heart of this entire blueprint are the main characters. And in this reading, Snow White and the Evil Queen, they aren't just people in a story. They are these huge primal forces that exist inside every single one of us. They are the living embodiment of that fundamental conflict between your soul and your ego.
And check this out. The story basically hands us the first major clue right from the get-go. The queen's wish for a child isn't just some poetic little line. Those specific colors, white, red, and black, that's not random. That is a direct, unambiguous reference to a very old, very well-known esoteric system. And bam! There's the connection to European alchemy. These 3 colors are the 3 primary stages of the great work. You have black, or nigrido, which is all about dissolving the old you, breaking everything down. Then you have white, albedo, the purification and cleansing process. And finally red, or rubido, which stands for completion, for full-blown enlightenment. Snow White herself embodies this entire alchemical journey, right from her very name.
So, who is Snow White in all of this? She represents what the old texts call the virgin consciousness. Think of her as your pure, untainted soul essence. She's your higher self, that innocent part of you that hasn't been jaded by the world. She is the raw potential for enlightenment that's just sitting there inside all of us.
And then you've got her opposite, the Evil Queen. She is the perfect stand-in for the ego. Her whole sense of self is built on getting validation from the outside world, that relentless need to be the fairest of them all. She absolutely cannot stand being second best, and her entire power trip is based on maintaining that superficial control. So, you can see how the pure, simple existence of the soul is a massive threat to the ego's whole game.
So when the queen's ego just can't take the soul's growing light anymore, she orders Snow White to be taken out. But the huntsman can't do it, and Snow White runs. Now this isn't just her running for her life. This is the soul being violently pushed out of the known world, that comfy palace of materialism, and forced into the wild, dark forest of the unconscious. The journey into the self has begun.
And as she travels deeper into this inner landscape, one number starts showing up over and over and over again. It's like a flashing neon sign telling us that we are now looking at a very deliberate, very specific kind of map.
Think about it. Snow White runs over 7 mountains. She finds a cottage with 7 little plates, 7 little cups, 7 little beds. Come on, this is no accident. This isn't just lazy storytelling. The story is practically screaming a symbolic language at us, and it's pointing directly to the subtle energy system inside the human body.
And this brings us to one of the biggest reveals. The 7 Dwarfs? They represent the 7 chakras, the body's main energy centers. They are the guardians of our inner world.
And they agree to protect Snow White, our soul. But there's a catch. She has to do humble work. She has to cook and clean and keep their house in order. This is a beautiful metaphor for the inner work, the purification, the discipline you have to do to balance your own energy centers before any kind of higher consciousness can safely wake up.
But, the ego doesn't just roll over and give up. The second the soul starts doing this inner work, the ego gets crafty. It gets deceptive, and it launches a series of escalating attacks, all designed for one purpose: to drag our consciousness right back down into the material world.
So the queen comes in disguise and tempts Snow White 3 times. The first attack is with these beautiful laces. She ties them so tight Snow White can't breathe. This is an attack on our prana, our life force breath, using vanity to literally suffocate consciousness. The dwarfs save her. The second attack is a poisoned comb. This one targets her pride, her self-image. Again, the dwarfs manage to save her. But that third attack, the apple, that one's different. It targets deep sensory indulgence, a physical pleasure that's just too powerful for her to resist.
And listen, this part is absolutely key. The dwarfs, our internal chakras, they could handle the attacks on breath and pride, but they were totally powerless against the apple. What does this mean? It shows us that when our consciousness gets completely lost, completely bogged down in deep material attachment and sensory overload, our own internal guardians get bypassed. The soul goes dormant. It's like it's been knocked spiritually offline.
So if our own internal system can't bring the soul back online, what can? This is where the story shifts into its climax, and it starts describing something our sources call neuroalchemy, this amazing idea that spiritual events have a real, tangible, biological effect in the brain. And this event, it requires an outside catalyst.
And enter the prince. Now, he is not just some romantic hero who comes to save the day. No, he symbolizes the sacred marriage. This is the integration of the masculine and feminine energies within yourself. In yogic traditions, they call this balancing Ida and Pingala, the 2 main energy channels that run up your spine. And when those 2 unite, that is the trigger for the final awakening.
Now, this awakening is powered by a primal energy known in tons of traditions as Kundalini, or the serpent fire. And our sources are clear, this isn't just a metaphor. They describe it as a real, dormant evolutionary force that's literally coiled at the base of your spine. When the blockage from the apple, that deep attachment to the material world, is finally dislodged, this energy is finally free to rise.
And this is where ancient mysticism gets a wild confirmation from modern neurobiology. The rising serpent symbol directly corresponds to Kundalini energy ascending the spinal column. The mystical tree of life found in so many cultures, it maps almost perfectly to the body's vagus nerve network. And the final destination for this energy, the third eye, the seat of the soul, that's the pineal gland, a tiny neuroalchemical chamber deep in your brain that, when activated, can literally flood your mind with light and expanded awareness.
Okay, so the blockage is removed, the inner energies have united, and boom, Snow White awakens. The journey is almost done. The final stage is all about integrating this new state of being and dealing with the ultimate fate of the ego that fought so hard to stop it from happening.
The story ends with the queen being forced to dance in red-hot iron shoes till she drops dead. Yeah, it's a pretty gruesome image, I know, but the symbolism is incredibly powerful. Those red-hot shoes represent the intense, purifying fire of fully awakened Kundalini energy. And the ego, with all its vanity and attachments, it simply cannot survive in that kind of high-frequency state. It gets incinerated, dissolved by the very light it spent the whole story trying to put out.
So what's left after the ego is gone? Sovereignty, true freedom. Completing this inner journey means breaking free from all the societal programming. It means you stop reacting to the world, like the queen needing her mirror, and you start living in a state of resonance, of inner completeness. Because here's the ultimate takeaway. A person who is fully, truly aware of their own inner power, well, they simply can't be enslaved.
So in the end, this ancient story leaves us with a very modern challenge. It asks us to see our body not just as a biological machine, but as a sacred temple, a finely tuned instrument. The path of Snow White isn't just a story, it's a potential that exists inside every one of us. So the final question really is a personal one. With your attention, your breath, and all your choices, what frequency are you choosing to tune your own inner temple to?